Folks, welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. The media is in full meltdown mode. Democrat politicians are beside themselves. President Trump has managed to trigger everyone on the left by simply following the mandate the American people gave him. We want disruptors in Washington, which is why we elected President Trump to be the next president of the United States. For some reason, the mainstream media doesn't understand that. They don't seem to understand that we're tired of business as usual. If we still continue to go down the road of hiring the same old tired bureaucrats, career politicians that put us in this mess, what do you think is going to happen? It's that old stupid saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, right? I mean, this is literally what politicians from the beginning of time, presidents from the beginning of time up until President Trump have done. Now President Trump comes in and he decides to make his cabinet filled with disruptors, billionaires who aren't beholden to anyone. This is what we needed. Now, if you go back 20 years ago, I never thought I'd be saying I want more billionaires in Washington. Well, there weren't billionaires like Elon Musk 20 years ago. At least I didn't know about him. So now we got a guy like that who's going to upend Washington, Vivek Ramaswamy along with him. Can they get done what they say they're going to get done? In some respects, I'm a tad skeptical. Either way, if they get half of what they claim, a quarter of what they claim, I'll be okay with that. But I'm looking at all the coverage of what President Trump is doing, and man, the left just doesn't hear it. The mainstream media, 60 Minutes, this hit piece last night was so despicable. And again, they're tone deaf to what we are hungry for, and that's change. That's limited government and putting America back on track. Now, one reason that I'm skeptical is because I don't think government's going to be able to rein in the spending like I hope they can, which is why I still believe that gold is a great place for your money. Colonial Metals Group can help you. They're great sponsors of this program, and I thank them for that. Colonial Metals is helping so many of our Rumble viewership secure their portfolio with gold. We're still spending like drunken sailors, man. Inflation is still a problem. You have central banks across the globe that are buying gold because they know there is a war on the dollar going on. Gold has stood the test of time. So if you want to think about a portfolio protection maneuver, gold is the place to go. Heck, they'll give you up to $7,500 worth of free silver, depending on your investment. Colonial Metals Group. Go to freegoldguide.com/grant. Super easy website. freegoldguide.com/grant. Start to take back control of your portfolio and go where the smart money goes. Let's just put it that way. Colonial Metals Group can help. freegoldguide.com/grant. I love these guys. We're going to have an interview with them next week. freegoldguide.com/grant. Let them help you protect your portfolio. All right. With that, folks, I want to talk about 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes has continued to go downhill. It's continued to move further and further left. One of the reasons the media is so bad is because it's not listening to the American public. It's listening to the coastal elites. The coastal elites are like ostriches with their heads buried in the sand. They're hell-bent on climate change. They're hell-bent on electric vehicle mandates. They're hell-bent on shutting down oil production. They're hell-bent on going and taxing the wealthy. What they're not hell-bent on is getting back to the basics of getting government out of the way, simplifying things, lowering the regulatory environment, let people be set up to succeed. Government right now stands in the way of success. Now, President Trump comes out with his cabinet picks. First and foremost, Matt Gaetz. I actually think it's the best pick ever. One, I love the fact that it triggered the left. It put him on notice that there will be some ramifications for your actions of illegally targeting conservatives like President Trump and others. Two, he's a really, really smart guy, and he's great at interrogating people. It'll be very interesting once these investigations start to unfold, the tone the investigation takes. And, you know, I always say organizations take on the tone of the leader, and we all know Matt Gaetz's tone is direct, to the point, and take no prisoners attitude. Yet 60 Minutes comes on and does a virtual hit piece on Pete Hegseth, who is now going to be the next Secretary of Defense. Why are they so upset with him? It's so funny to listen to them say, they never worked in government. Well, good. That's what the American people want. We don't want people that worked in government. The problem is government is so bad. Why would we want anybody that's worked in government? We know that doesn't work. So we want people outside of government. And 60 Minutes just can't fathom that we would do that President Trump would do that. Take a listen.
This past week, Republicans won the House majority, and President-elect Trump made nominations to his cabinet. Some nominees appear to have no compelling qualifications other than loyalty to Trump.
No compelling qualifications. So let's just take Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth made it to the rank of major in the United States military. He's been a Fox morning host, which puts him smack dab in the middle of everything political. You've got to know so much about so many issues in order to be successful in that role. Take it from me, a guy who does this for a living, both 3 hours on the radio, an hour on the TV show, and we do the podcast here. You are talking to the movers and shakers. You are studying policy. This may be one of the best jobs to prep you for a role like this. But according to Scott Pelley, I guess it doesn't matter.
The nominees are Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth to lead the 3 million people of the Department of Defense. He's a combat veteran, most recently a morning show host on Fox News with no government experience.
Again, notice how he says, with no government experience. Well, good. Can I ask you out there, and I know all of you know the answer to this question because you're watching this show and programs like it, but where does government experience get us? Now, I get it. If you're a new lawmaker in Washington, here's what I would do. If I had just gotten elected in the United States Congress, I would go find myself a legislative guy that knows the inner workings of Washington, but all my policy people I would bring in from the outside. All I need is one person in Washington that can literally walk me down the hall to show me where you file the bill, to show me actually how to file a bill. Maybe I need a guy who knows how to write a bill, but I don't need experience in Washington to tell me how government should be run or what should and shouldn't happen and how we should treat the United States citizens. In fact, what I'd rather have is a United States citizen to do that. You know what I mean. I'd rather have a real person telling me this is what we need, Grant, not some ruling class career bureaucrat in D.C.
Former Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, in charge of law enforcement. Gaetz has been investigated by Republicans for alleged drug use and sex with a minor. Gaetz denies those allegations. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. She sought a pardon for Edward Snowden, who leaked U.S. secrets and now lives in Russia. And Robert Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services, a skeptic of vaccinations.
Oh, well, that goes against the elitist narrative. He's a skeptic of vaccinations. Isn't it nice to have some skepticism inside government? And maybe that's the key word. Maybe that's what President Trump was looking for in his cabinet. People that are skeptics, that are not just going to buy into the go along to get along mentality of those inside government today. Skeptics are what we need. Tell me why you need that budget. Tell me why you need more money for that. Tell me why the building in Raleigh, North Carolina isn't going to work and you need a new building in Florida. Explain to me why all this. Skeptics. We don't have skeptics in government. What we have in government are, yes, that'll work. All you have to do is pay for it. Write me a check. I'll make it happen. That's not what we want in government. So between Matt Gaetz and RFK Jr., holy macaroni, they were triggered enough. Normally, Pete Hegseth taking a Fox News host and making him a secretary of anything would trigger them enough. But now having RFK Jr. in charge of HHS may be one of the most brilliant moves possible, because what I believe this will do was this will start to break up the big pharma industrial complex that is literally working beside government to hose the American people.
It's up to the new Republican majority in the Senate to decide whether these nominees are equipped to represent the American people.
You know, in many respects, if President Trump feels they're equipped to represent the American people, then that's all we need. So they do have to be confirmed by the Senate. There's some issues with this recess appointments, meaning you can temporarily appoint people to the cabinet while you're in recess. President Trump is thinking of doing that. Then would they never officially be cabinet members? Or you do that until you can actually get them through and pass through? But you have rhino Republicans that are going to go against President Trump. There's nothing in any one of those backgrounds, the people's background that we talked about, that says they can't do it. The thing that is in the people's background that we're talking about is that not only do they want to do it, but they want to disrupt. And so when you want to disrupt business as usual in Washington, that's the number one reason why politicians will say, no, we don't want you. So we're not going to let that happen. We're going to get them through, I promise you. And one reason why is I want to play for you Vivek Ramaswamy talking about cutting the size of government. Hey, folks, you see this Bitcoin craze going on? So I've invested with a company called NFN8. It's the website is get21now.com. Get 21 now because it's about getting 21% annualized income on your investment, annualized interest on your investment, paid monthly. Okay, so I make an investment, which I did with them. I get direct deposited into my account the 21% interest. It's like clockwork. They've lived up to all their promises. I'm taking part in the Bitcoin craze, but without the wild fluctuations. I've locked into that 21%. And even best of all, this is about Bitcoin mining. So they've industrialized the process. They have the mining machines and equipment. They mine the Bitcoin. They sell it off the next day. They start the process all over again. So you're not worried about these big, giant fluctuations, the ups and downs, the this and that. You're literally capitalizing on the Bitcoin craze, Bitcoin mining, but you're locking in to a return of 21% annualized interest. I love this. No big overhead, no craziness. Get21now.com, get21now.com. Pay them a visit and call them back if they call you. Don't fill it out and not call them back. They're so busy. I promise you're not going to regret this one. All right. Vivek Ramaswamy says he's going to help Elon. These two are going to be in charge of the Doge office, the Department of Government Efficiency. Here's him talking about what could possibly happen.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, I think, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes, given the legal backdrop the Supreme Court has given us.
So expect the changes, baby. Entire agencies being cut. Now, here's the question. And maybe this would deserve its own podcast. Can Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy make the cuts that are most certainly necessary, make the cuts that are right there on the table for the pickings, without congressional approval? I think there's some cuts that can be made without congressional approval. I think if you're going to do away with agencies and that kind of thing, you may need congressional approval on board, which is going to be hard with our slim majority in the Senate and even our slim majority in the House. So I want President Trump to slash and dash this government, and I want Elon and Vivek to take full advantage of that. When you look at, you've got federal buildings that are not being used. Why don't you just sell them off? Now you save yourself monthly maintenance costs, yearly maintenance costs, insurance on those buildings, all of that saved. Maybe you have some buildings that are only half empty or half being used. Why aren't we leasing out the other floors? In many respects, we're not. Lease out the other floors, we bring some income coming in. You have grants that are being offered up. Just go to the National Institutes of Health. that the federal government has no business issuing grants to, and we could pull up a list of those. They're so out of control that every time you read these lists, and you've heard them before, I don't need to go through them, you're shocked. You cut from there. They believe they can cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. Boy, if they do that, we are well on our way to being a very successful nation. Even half that, a quarter that, we're on our way, because right now, nobody is cutting anything, which is sad. All right. Did you hear about Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough and Mika, going down to meet with Donald Trump? They haven't seen the man in person in 7 years. Remember, they were all buddy friends. Well, apparently we learned they went down to meet with Trump. How did that go?
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets.
So hold on a second. Why do they go down to see President Trump? So do they want us to give them credit? Oh, look at you, an olive branch, a sign of unity. Do any of you think that I asked to go see Joe Biden after he was installed in the White House 4 years ago? No, I don't want to go see him. There's nothing Joe Biden could tell me to make me think that he was going to work for the betterment of America. Nothing. What is President Trump going to tell Joe and Mika that they have not seen on TV? Well, we can listen to them and see. So my ultimate assessment of this is Joe and Mika are fully willing to sell them souls for access. They love power. They love the D.C. circuit, and they want access. So now that they've been hammering away at President Trump, they never thought he'd win again. They hammer away. And now that President Trump wins, Joe and Mika want access. So they will suck up, bend a knee, go down to Mar-a-Lago, kiss the ring, and hope that President Trump comes around and lets them back into the inner circle. I don't think it's going to happen.
About that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders.
You know, her father, Brzezinski was a very seasoned world negotiator, foreign policy guy, but start communications. I'm not sure President Trump needs communications with you. Now, he can offer up a sign of unity, but President Trump doesn't need to get elected again, which is why I think this is the best thing about this term, is that he can sincerely want unity by showing the other side what conservative principles will do for America, what freedom does for your psyche. But I don't think he needs to have communications with Joe and Mika.
With whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues.
This is a suck-up job. President Trump, this is my warning to you. These two are snakes in the grass. They are not to be trusted. Do not think, after all the horrible things they said about you, that they are now open to a dialogue that is going to benefit you in any way, shape, or form. They will sell you out the moment you do something they don't like. I fear this is all literally them pandering to get some access so they get some ratings. And in the end, when it gets too bad for them to handle, when freedom really explodes in this country, they're going to turn on you.
And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words.
Yeah, but you see, you were off base. You did not represent the overwhelming majority of America. You represent the coastal elites who have cocktail parties on Park Avenue. That's not us. That's not even close to us.
In the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realized it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
It's not up to you. It's not up to you. I mean, sure, your part, you get to have a say. But President Trump's the one who's going to be able to start that or not. And so I give huge kudos to President Trump for even letting them come down to Mar-a-Lago. How does that call go? Hey, Joe and Mika want to come down to the club, see you, have a chat. Would you like to meet with him? What? I would have said no, but President Trump's a bigger man than I am. This is why he's president of the United States. He's open to stuff like this. I really do believe the man genuinely wants everyone to get along. Now, I'm a hardliner on this. I want to get along, but I want to get along by showing them life is better under us than it was under them and letting them realize, not get along by placating them, not get along by giving in to them, not get along by giving them a few things that they want, negotiating with them. That's not how I want to do it. I want to get along by having all of these things unfold. We do everything we said we were going to do to put America back on track. And then in the end, Joe and Mika say, hey, you know what? That was pretty good 4 years. Wow. How about that? Shocks me. So Scarborough talked about this.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election. So maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite, you dumb ding-dong. If you're not seeking re-election, why do you need to pander to the other side? He doesn't need to recruit independent voters anymore. I think this is all them delusional. I think it's wishful thinking. I think they're hoping somehow they're going to have a seat at the table. Now, I will say this. President Trump gave plenty of Democrats a seat at the table. We talked about RFK Jr., head of HHS, Tulsi Gabbard. She ran for president of the United States as a Democrat just 4 years ago. Now she's going to be his national security advisor. Perfect role for her, by the way.
I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch. But think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got 50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%. So I don't know. Seems to make sense for leaders of both parties to seek common ground, if it's possible at all.
I do believe there are certain things we should be able to seek common ground on. This idea of cutting government, if you have buildings sitting empty, as I mentioned, would Democrats not agree that maybe those buildings need to be sold off or rented out at the very least? I would hope so. I think if you were studying the effects of monkeypox on gay chickens, that maybe we don't need to give money to that study. I don't know if that's a study or not, but it certainly could be reading some of the studies that I read. Would we not agree on some of those things? Would we not agree that if we have an agency that is looking at one thing and over here you have another agency that looking at the exact same thing, that is duplication and we don't need it? We don't need two studies on the same issue by two sets of bureaucrats. One set of bureaucrats is enough for us. You would hope that would be bipartisan enough to get along.
And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders we've talked to this past week since the election have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach. And when I say top Democrats, I mean top Democrats. They said, we're open, and this was before we talked to Donald Trump. They said, listen, we're open to working with the incoming president.
Oh, screw all of you. Now you're open to working with President Trump because you got steamrolled. This is like Schumer the other day when I played you the clip of him talking about, I would encourage my Republican colleagues to unify now with the other. Shut up. You didn't unify with us. You didn't push unity. You were pushing a Russian collusion hoax, which, by the way, as Scarborough's talking about this, as Schumer's talking about unity, you literally have Senator-elect Adam Schiff, and believe me, it kills me to say Senator-elect Adam Schiff, going on and pushing the Russian collusion hoax, which I'll play that for you in a minute. He literally is still doubling down on the Russian collusion hoax. But Scarborough continued.
If the incoming president is open to working with us.
Yeah, the question is, though, how do we get there? Hyperbole and personal attacks will not work. My hair on fire doesn't work. We've all seen that. What also...
Yeah, we've all seen it. From you. My hair on fire is, oh, Russia, Russia, Russia. Oh, the Hunter Biden laptop is fake. Do you know it turns out the Hunter Biden laptop is as real as God is real? And I'm going to tell you something. Hunter Biden, the situation and things that he did pale in comparison to what any Republican has done. And yet they were screaming hair on fire about Donald Trump and Russia when all the while, what was it? The Biden family, the Clintons, they were all making backroom deals. Obama's too.
Does not work is threatening political opponents with arrest, harassment, and even jail. That is a...
Oh, do you know how frustrating this is to hear this? What do you think you just did to us? You threatened President Trump with jail. He still has a sentencing that hasn't been figured out what's going to happen on in New York. You imprison J6ers left and right. What are you talking about, the threats? The threats were coming from your party.
Failed path. Recent history has proven that impeachments and trials turn those on trial into political martyrs and only make them more popular with the American people. Just ask Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. We know this will be a consequential presidency. The question is whether it will be constructive. It will take a new approach from all sides, from both parties.
No, it will not. We have been part of this Make America Great Again movement for nearly 10 years now. And the movement is so simple. We're not offering up a new approach. We're saying we're going to get disruptors inside Washington. We want to drain the swamp of those career bureaucrats who have put us in the position that we're in, which means we're not going to hire them back to fill positions. It means we're going to limit the size and scope of government and get back to the basics. It means that we're going to unleash our energy resources, but more than that, unleash our investors to get them back out there incentivized to create and build something, employ people. All of that has been the mission. We're not changing any of that, okay? Lower taxes. And I believe when you lower taxes and you create the stress of corporate income taxes at a rate that rivals most Western worlds, that you will spur more income for your government because more companies will be out there building and growing.
And a leader who can bring them together, and only time will tell if Donald Trump is that leader. As for us, we also let him know that we will continue to speak truth to power and push back hard when called for, as we have with all presidents.
Don't be mistaken. We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump. We're here to report on him and to hopefully provide you insights that are going to better equip all of us in understanding these deeply unsettling times. And I am reminded of what Marty Barron, legendary editor, told his Washington Post reporters back in the first term. We're not going to war. We're going to work.
Well, how do I phrase this? And I want to phrase it very carefully. We are also going to work. We are also going to war. And the war isn't with Democrats. It's not with everyday Americans. The war is with the deep state, the career bureaucrats, and the corporate media that did everything they could do to squash us and imprison us. Those people we're going to war with. And it means we get our country back, because if we win this war, we will make it very difficult for their side to ever have success again, rising up against the American people. We don't want that. We want a government rising up with the American people. And again, that's what Make America Great Again is all about. Right? All right. Folks, let me tell you about one thing that I feel very strongly about as we try to get geared up for this. You better have good phone service. I do. I've got a Patriot mobile phone. My phone is awesome because I know every time I make a call, I'm doing my part in funding conservative causes, from podcasts and TV shows like this, to putting in God We Trust signs in schools across America, to literally dispatching lobbyists to state houses across the country to push for conservative values. Patriot Mobile is getting it done on a conservative level that no other cell phone company does. Why would you give money to those big cell phone companies that are literally funding the woke agenda when you can give to America's only Christian conservative wireless provider? That, of course, is Patriot Mobile. They will be great stewards of your money. And when I talk about a parallel economy, let's only fund businesses that believe in the things we believe in. That's what Patriot Mobile is all about. I'm proud to be a partner with them. I would urge you, please join me. Switch your service. Do it today. There's no need or reason to be with these other companies. They'll make you a great deal to switch. You can upgrade your phone, get a new phone, whatever you need. They'll make it happen for you. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. That's the website, PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Or you can call them at 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT, and you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, so that's Joe and Mika. Now, I want to show you what hypocrites these two are. Because, you know, as they freak out about RFK Jr. and his war on vaccinations, and we think about all the things that have happened with vaccinations to the point where when I was a kid, we were getting like, what, 6, 8 of them? Now there's 72 recommended vaccines. Let's do a little throwback and you'll see what young men these two are. RFK Jr. and Joe Scarborough.
My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law, and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me, and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation,
so something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury.
Think about it. The numbers changed now. This is, I don't know what, 20 years ago? So now we're looking at 72 recommended vaccines, something like that. And yes, there is mercury in some of these vaccines. Do you think anything it's good to put mercury in your body? What was it on the old thermometers that if you broke it, you weren't supposed to touch it? Wasn't that mercury in those? And now they're putting that in vaccines? You knew back then you weren't supposed to break the thermometer and touch the mercury.
And nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe. A child on his first day that he's born is injected with a hepatitis B shot under EPA guidelines, he would have to be 275 pounds to safely absorb that shot.
And yet we're just constantly pumping our kids with these vaccines.
Right, and what happened was that in 1988, 1 in every 2,500 American children had autism. Today, 1 in every 166 children have autism, and plus 1 in 6.
You know what's amazing is look at Joe Scarborough in total agreement. I didn't know his kid has Asperger's. That's sad. But here he is in total agreement. Why? Because he thinks RFK Jr. is a big Democrat, even way back then when Joe showed signs of republicanism when he first left Congress. You remember, he was a Republican in Congress. But he's hanging on RFK Jr.'s every word. Why does he hang on every word? Because that's what you're trained to do. You're trained to hang on the word of a Democrat. Support them if you're in the mainstream media, which is what he's doing. Now, as soon as he switches parties, it doesn't matter. They didn't change what he's saying. Think about that. RFK Jr. has not changed what he's saying to Joe Scarborough, but now Joe Scarborough calls him a quack. Why? Because RFK Jr. is now a Republican.
Children have other kinds of learning disorders, other kinds of neurological disorders, speech delay, language disorders, ADD, hyperactivity, that all seem to be connected, that are all connected, the science shows are all connected to autism.
You know, Bobby, what we've always found, you and I could debate 1,000 different issues, whether it's Terry Schiavo or the environment. I think would agree on the environment. But in this case, you've got the federal government coming in saying, well, there's no good science. And of course, in politics, science always gets diluted. Why hasn't the federal government stepped up and worked more? Because listen, Bobby, I can't prove it tonight. You can't prove it. But intuitively, you look at the spike, you look at what happened with the Marisol, there is no doubt in my mind, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, we're going to find out that the Marisol causes, in my opinion, autism.
You know what? The science.
Oh, so what does Joe Scarborough do about that clip now? Anyone going to play it for him? Does Mika say, hey, I was watching the Stinchfield guy. He played a clip of you talking about how you don't think the vaccines are very good, that the vaccine schedule causes autism. And folks, I want you to be clear right now. I don't know if the vaccine schedule now causes autism or not, but I will tell you this, the COVID vaccine opened my eyes to everything, because I do know that COVID vaccine is bad news. It's been proven to be bad news. It did not work. And so now I question everything else. But I had a series of vaccines, and I seem to be doing okay, but I didn't have 72 of them like this. So this is Salsa Mike says 47 needs to fix all of this in 3.5 years. I don't know if it's possible to fix all of this in 3.5 years. You got people out there who are not good people. Not good people at all. People like Adam Schiff. So Adam Schiff goes on State of the Union with Jake Tapper, who's just a devious little witch. I almost said it. You know, I try not to curse on this program because it isn't right to do, but sometimes I have a hard time. So pencil next Schiff, Senator-elect Adam Schiff, I can't believe I have to say that, goes on with Jake Tapper. And do you believe this mother scratcher pushes the Russian collusion hoax? Not only pushes it, he doubles down on it when over and over again has been debunked, even by Democrats.
Obviously, he is bringing a group of people to disrupt. I mean, that is what Speaker Johnson said. And I'm wondering about how much anybody in Washington is being introspective at all about why there is this kind of opening for disruptors, if not necessarily these individuals. You were censured in the House last year for, in their view, holding positions of power during the Trump presidency as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And according to them, quote, abusing this trust by saying there was evidence of collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. And I wonder if you are feeling at all introspective at all about that was, according to the Mueller report and according to your Republican colleagues, an overstatement. And I wonder if you think in any way you help set the table for these disruptors.
You know, first of all, it wasn't an overstatement. There is evidence of collusion. The Trump campaign manager was meeting with Russian intelligence and giving them internal polling data, just to give you one example. And the Mueller report sets all this out.
It does say, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities, which doesn't mean that he didn't, that there weren't meetings, but they didn't find evidence.
Mueller says that too. He says the fact that we didn't find proof beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean there wasn't evidence of conspiracy or coordination. So
you see literally what he's doing. He's doubling down on Russian collusion when we know there was no Russian collusion. We know it was a dossier concocted by Hillary Clinton, pushed by the FBI and those inside the CIA, which is, I'm so glad John Ratcliffe is going to be in charge of the CIA now to get to the bottom of that craziness. I'm still eagerly awaiting who's going to be in charge of the FBI. I'm hoping it's my buddy Kash Patel. If it is, we're in for a wild ride in a good way. This, you get elected as United States Senator. You have the ability to confirm cabinet appointments. Yet, I guess the people of California confirmed Adam Schiff, but that's not saying much coming out of California. Again, even Jake Tapper in his own, well, I'm not gonna say the B word to Jake Tapper, but he is one too. In his own little whiny way, he pushes back. And Schiff literally continues to say, yes, there was Russian collusion.
But look, that's not what people were voting on. People were voting on, is this guy going to improve the economy? Is he going to address inflation? And we didn't persuade the American people that we had a better answer to that question, that we had a better program, agenda, plan. And more than that, I think we failed to persuade the American people that in the voters' point of view, hey, that party, that candidate understands people like me.
Well, why would you be able to do that? How would you be able as a Democrat to persuade the voters that they understand us? When I've just played you clip after clip after clip, they don't understand. Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes just last night saying, well, they don't have any government experience. How dumb are you? You don't get us. You don't understand what we want. And what we want is so freaking simple. Like the most basic of simplicity. Give me a bunch of bold alphas that are willing to disrupt the status quo, send them in there to streamline government, make it better, make it for the people, not against the people, and try to just clean the whole place up. It's literally that simple. Go with disinfectant and spray down Washington, please. But they want to overcomplicate it. Do you want proof? And I do have proof that they're wrong, we're right. The NFL may be the best example of this. What happened when we pushed back against all this kneeling for the national anthem? For a while, they kept kneeling. They've stopped doing that, by the way. If you watch most NFL games, they've got some form of military tribute at some point in the game, whether it's halftime, whether it's before the game, somehow they pay tribute to the military. That's a tip of the cap to all of us, by the way, whether we're in the military or not. They know conservatives are such big supporters of our military. That's what the NFL is doing because they knew they messed up. Now, by no means am I saying the NFL is not woke or the NFL still isn't a problem. But it's changing. And in many respects, even the players' attitudes have changed, right? The players were all part of this defund the police movement, to stop racism, all this stuff. I love that players are complaining about racism when the majority of the league is black. The majority of the league makes $10 million a year each. And they're complaining that there's just no opportunity in America, but whatever. But I think it's changing. And here's how I know it's changing. The Trump floss. Trump's dance. It's taken off. I mean, have you seen this? This was a video I saw. This is pure joy. Tim Walz talks about joy, and then whoever put this together, man, summed it up.
All the things that make me mad about those other guys and all the things they do wrong, the one thing that I will not forgive them for is their try to steal the joy from this country.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Trump's iconic dance moves are sweeping the internet and winning him a lot of fans across the globe.
So look at this, folks. I want you to keep a close eye on this. These are NFL players doing the floss, the Trump dance. They wouldn't do it unless they supported Trump. back 2016, 2020. He was doing the floss dance. It was so good. Now he throws the golf swing in there. Fine. But this wasn't a craze then. It's a craze now. And we can thank Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for that. They screwed this country up so much. Now people have realized, man, President Trump was right all along. Steal the joy. It's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that stole the joy. I mean, that, folks, should tell you all you need to know about where we are as a nation. Right there. That President Trump and the fever of the MAGA movement is now solidified. It is ingrained in the American people. And I think we don't look back. I really don't. All right, folks. A couple of the comments from today. Trump for California governor. I don't think so, Salsa. Here's the thing. I think what you're going to see is Kamala Harris go to California. She's going to try to be the California governor there. And she may just win because that's how dopey they are out in California. Take it from a guy who does radio there every morning. And you can find me if you Google, if you want, 9 to 12 Eastern time, not Real America's Voice, The Morning Answer. Just type in The Morning Answer, AM 870 on Rumble. We stream the show, and it's a great show. You're going to love it. I promise you. But I know California. I know it like the back of my hand now. California is going to get Kamala Harris as governor. Why? Because Gavin Newsom, not only is going to be termed out, but he's going to come try to make a run for the presidency next time around. J.D. Vance, get ready, gear up. All right, folks. Hey, before I let you go, I got to tell you about some good friends of mine over at Energized Health. I feel great, okay? I really do. And one of the reasons I feel great is because of the Energized Health program. This is about intercellular hydration, getting hydrated at a cellular level. I've changed what I eat and how I eat around just a little bit, not a lot. This is not some crazy fad diet. I changed how I work out just a little bit, not some crazy workout deal. I almost instantly lost 15 pounds on this. And then I tailored it so I remain steady, getting hydrated at a cellular level. My well-being goes up. My mental acuity goes up. My skin gets better. I lose visceral fat. I gain muscle mass. You name it. Everything in a positive direction. This thing is fabulous. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. I am living proof that this system works, and the simplicity is what makes it so beautiful. So easy. I know you can do it. They got a money-back guarantee. They have like a 99.9% success rate. I urge you to go there. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. If you got to lose 200 pounds, maybe you were like me and just want to tone it up, lose 15, 20 pounds. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. They can help you. You are going to love getting hydrated at a cellular level. All right. Lastly, you think these are being sold? This is 75% off Harris 2024 shirts. 75% off? You can give these things away. Who in the world is buying Harris 2024 shirts now? I mean, really? No wonder the shelves are filled with them. They're hung up there too. I think they ought to just try to give them away. And who you give them to? Homeless people. I don't even think homeless people want to wear those shirts anymore. Send them to a recycler. See if they can recycle them, because nobody's wearing a Harris Walsh shirt. All right, folks. That is going to do it for us. I so appreciate you guys watching. Yes, Dallas babe. Glad to be here with like common sense people. That's what we are. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of the common sense that has taken us over. I will see all of you on the Real America's Voice show. We're on the verge of World War III, folks. How about that for a tease? I'll tell you why tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Real America's Voice. And again, please, if you can, visit my website, grantstinchfield.com, grantstinchfield.com. Sign up for the email list there so I can get in touch with you. Give us a follow. Share this podcast everywhere you can. If you're watching, copy the link and share it. All right? Let's get our views up and let's spread the message. All of us together. Takes an army. Stinchfield's army. All right. I love you all. We'll see you tonight. Take it easy, folks.